Motorhead Garage, presented by NHOU Protective Coatings, is brought to you by RockAuto.com. All the parts your car will ever need. BrothersTrucks.com, your #1 source for 1947 to 87 Chevy and GMC truck restoration. Magic Creeper, the most versatile creeper ever. Forest River Incorporated, follow the river. And by Oil Undercoating, the official oil-based rust prevention system.
This is Motorhead Garage, presented by NHOU Protective Coatings. If your vehicle has a turbocharger, it also has an intercooler. Well, you may have heard the term before, but maybe you're not quite sure what it actually does. Eric is an expert here. He's from Pacific Performance Engineering. Eric, why do we have an intercooler? What does it do?
We have an intercooler to basically reduce the intake air temperature. We have turbochargers, they create boost, which creates heat, and the intercooler's job is to remove that heat, creating a denser air charge as the air enters your engine.
More dense air means more horsepower.
And better fuel economy at the same time.
And at Pacific Performance Engineering, you found that the Duramax engine with a lot of GM trucks goes down on power when that air gets hot. Why is that?
The computer system is constantly monitoring all aspects of the engine. And what they do is if they sense overheating in any area, power is heat. So they pull back the power in an effort to save the motor, save the transmission, all of it. We found this area requires a little attention. So we made a intercooler core that's 2.4 times greater volume, and it reduces the intake air temperatures and really does a good job. We went with a bar and plate style. We've got the end castings, so it's a really efficient design. It's probably the most efficient design for heat transfers today. By having more volume, it has a longer time before it gets heat soaked or heat saturated.
I've got the instructions here and your intercooler kit. I've looked at this. First of all, I love the instructions. Lots of photos and everything to show me exactly what I'm doing. How easy is this to install?
We've got all the parts, so it's a complete kit. There's the new designed cradle. There's all of the silicone hoses, the clamps, and there's a little bit of hardware and a couple coolant hoses here. Now, a lot of people know intercoolers, and the first thing they think of is something that's very large and looks like a radiator. This design here with GM on the 3-liter, it's air to liquid heat transfer. So there's actually the coolant lines here, the clamps are associated with it. You've got the ducting that the air travels through. But it's all condensed in a really small package that's really efficient.
I know a lot of folks think this is major surgery to their vehicle. How much do you guys use the OEM holes and bolts and that sort of thing?
There's a little bit of hardware that we reuse. We reuse all the sensors, but basically it's a good Saturday morning project. Get your other one unbolted, take it off, and just step by step, pop it all in.
And it's not just the intercooler itself, also the hoses and everything that goes on it. You've given a lot of thought to how those are constructed as well.
Yeah, on the inlet side of it, there's a billet aluminum part, there's a coupler hose that install up there. And then on the exit side, there's a reducer. Now on the silicones, we've got 6mm 5-ply, and they're UV resistant. They've got a fluoro liner, so it's resistant to chemicals and oil and fuel. So they're really durable, long-lasting parts.
One question I forgot to ask you, Eric, how does the pressure coming out of the PPE intercooler compare to the OEM intercooler?
The design gives a 17% more efficient airflow.
So more efficient all the way around. If you want to get more power out of your Duramax, head to PPEpower.com. They've got the solution for you. There are chemicals and solvents out there you can use to separate seized parts, maybe a bolt or something like that. But of course, those chemicals can be messy, they can stink, and they can be very caustic. And another solution, you can use open flame to maybe heat something up and loosen it. But if you've seen anybody do that, you've no doubt seen them catch something on fire. So that's not always the greatest idea, especially when you're working around fuel lines and that sort of thing. Well, Induction Innovations has a solution. Now, their tools use induction, that is to say, they're using a magnetic field to create heat. And Induction Innovations is the original heat induction tool. They started over 2 decades ago, and they hold the patent for this technology. What makes Induction Innovations tools more efficient and safer? Well, they only heat ferrous metals, and they only heat what's within the coil. Everything around it stays cool to the touch. You can use induction to remove emblems, moldings, decals, and residues from adhesives. No solvents needed. The Mini Ductor is one of their most popular tools. It runs on 12 volts, so perfect for roadside work. It comes with 3 coils. One of them is preformed. The other two are 23 and 41 inches long, respectively. You can use those to form your own coils to suit any needs you might have. For example, if you're removing an NHOU sensor, first, of course, always be sure to wear gloves. Then you wrap the coil around, you plug in the leads, and you turn it on. If the coil's locked in, the lights will turn green. If not, the lights will stay red, so you know you have a good connection there. You want the coils to be as close as you can to the item you want to heat, but you don't want to touch it. If it does touch, it's not dangerous, but it can burn the insulation off the coil, and it is recommended you replace the coil after that. Remember, if you take good care of the coil, it'll be good for a long, long time, between 100 and 200 uses. You can use a tool from Induction Innovations over and over, but it's recommended that you run it for 2 minutes, then let it cool for 2 minutes, and that's another way to make sure that tool is going to last. Now, Induction Innovations handheld units are 1,000 watts, except for the Venom HP, it's 1,800 watts. And they also have a 2K inductor line. Those are all 2,000 watts, and those are great for removing windshields and spraying bed liners and that sort of thing. Just think how great it would be to have one of these maybe in an automotive salvage yard or when you're doing a restoration project. And also, a lot of folks in PDR, or paintless dent repair, are using tools from Induction Innovations. Now, it doesn't replace all the tools they normally use, but they can use it as another tool in their arsenal. Just hold the tool at the crown of the dent and it'll pop right out. Of course, it takes practice, and you should start on a junk car before you do it for the first time, and certainly before you work on any customer's vehicle. And I mentioned you can get 100 to 200 uses out of a coil. That's not too shabby, but new coils only cost about 20 bucks, so that works out to be less expensive than fuel for a torch. Tools from Induction Innovations work faster than the old-fashioned way. They're safer for you, and they're easier on tools. They won't break any screwdrivers or breaker bars trying to get parts loose. You can use tools from Induction Innovations near brake lines, fuel lines, near electrical systems, and even plastic parts. They're great for tight spaces, especially in conjunction with the long coil kit. You can bend the coils any way you want to and get into those hard-to-reach spaces, and you can't do that with an open flame. You'll find all kinds of uses for tools from Induction Innovations. You can find them at theinductor.com. And you can find more Motorhead Garage presented by NHOU Protective Coatings when we come back.